About 2 hours after Lincoln's surgery ended, everyone waited for him to wake up in the recovery room, including Dr. Lloyd. The sleep medication had just started to wear off, so soon everyone was pretty sure that Lincoln would wake up soon. The cast on his arm had been removed since the bone had fully healed, and almost his rib bones have also healed fully as well. Lincoln also had bandages wrapped around his head, which is most covered by a majority of the spot where the incisions have been made. You think he's able to speak and act normally again? Luna wondered. I sure hope so, Lynn Jr. said. As everyone wondered the same thing, Lincoln began to stir. Then his eyes slowly blinked open. Hey guys, he's waking up, Lola informed happily. Lincoln moaned slowly and opened his eyes, finding his vision to be slightly blurry due to him being sleepy from the sleep medication. He rubbed his eyes and then saw his family, the castrates and Clyde, all gathered around near the hospital bed. As soon as Lincoln saw them, his memories immediately came flooding back, no longer hindered by the brain damage. Mom, is that you? Lincoln asked Rita sleepily, his voice no longer slurred. Lincoln, Rita exclaimed in delight, embracing him gently. I'm so glad you're awake. Hey, he's speaking normally again, Lana said in delight. It looks like that machine of Lisa's really worked, Lola added. Lincoln looked around, noticing everyone in the room, then wondered what was going on. My memory is really hazy for some reason. Mind telling me what's going on? Lincoln asked in confusion. Dr. Lloyd and Lisa came forward to answer his question. It's a bit of a long story, but do you recall anything before waking up? Dr. Lloyd asked. Lincoln had trouble remembering since his brain damage was happening at the time, and even though his brain had been fully healed, there were still some gaps in the memory from the moment he had suffered from the incident, and even his present moment, because the brain damage wasn't able to function full capacity at the time, due to his memory being discontinued and hazy. I'm not sure, Lincoln replied. It all seems fuzzy. How so? Can you tell me what you remember? Dr. Lloyd pressed. Well, Lincoln pondered. I remember something about helping Lisa. I don't know if it was a dream, but I would have sworn I remember speaking to Lisa in some part of the hospital or something about saving me. Everyone else did not know what Lincoln was talking about, and Lisa knew exactly what he was referring to. No way, does Lincoln somehow remember how his body experienced before that during his surgery that it was so close to near death? Lisa thought, not expecting Lincoln to recall that moment. That wouldn't have been possible. You were asleep during the whole surgery, Dr. Lloyd informed. Surgery? I was in surgery? Lincoln exclaimed. Yes, Dr. Lloyd added. Your sister Lisa can explain it all. Lisa stepped forward and explained everything that happened to Lincoln since the incident on April Fool's Day, not leaving any details out. She described the life-threatening injuries that he had sustained from, and the fridge falling on him, including the part about having severe brain damage, broken spine, a brain hemorrhage, and Lincoln was clearly shocked as Lisa explained all of that to him, because his expression had changed from calm to uneasy. Due to being brain damaged at the time, Lincoln wasn't able to recall the previous events from the times that the hospital he was at after the accident, so it was difficult for him to remember everything. The only thing Lincoln could remember was being nearly crushed to death by the fridge falling on him, and everything about it was completely hazy. The part that Lisa mentioned about the CNI unit intrigued Lincoln, as he just finished heard Lola mentioning something about the machine that Lisa built. The CNI unit? What is that? Lincoln asked, curious. I was just about to mention that part, Lisa replied. The CNI unit is an invention of mine that I used to repair the damage done to the brain tissue in your head. Me and the other siblings had in hand in building it, and this machine has not been used, or you would have been died from the brain hemorrhage formed inside your brain, behind the brainstem. So there was no other way of surgically removing it, since it was too far inside from your brain to be reached without causing fatal damage. So building the CNI unit was our only chance in saving your life. And I must say, of the way of surgically removing it, it worked pretty well. No way, Lincoln exclaimed, gazing at his sisters. Is that true? Did you all help Lisa build this machine? Yeah, we couldn't just let you die, Lola answered. Even Luan helped, Lana said. Lincoln glanced over at Luan and had a felt of guilt on her face, and he had not forgotten what Luan did and suffered Rapid Bun, and recalling that moment where he saw the stuffed rabbit destroyed by her explosive party ball. This made Lincoln a bit angry, but Luan could tell by this expression. Lincoln, I know you're probably still angry at me for what I did to your stuffed rabbit and putting you in this place, but understand when I say I won't ever prank in the family on April Fool's Day. That's a promise, Luan said, hoping that Lincoln would forgive her. And Bun, did you think I was going to forget that, Luan? Lincoln questioned with a hint of anger in his voice. I fixed him with Lenny's help. don't you remember? Luan asked. No, I don't remember anything after April Fool's Day. Everything's just so hazy after that, Lincoln replied. I mean, I did recall seeing Bun Bun somewhere, but I can't be for sure. You might not remember because the brain damage you were having experience with that at the time. I fixed Bun Bun and sewed him up for you, so you should be back in your hospital bed, Luan answered. She's right, Lincoln, Dr. Lloyd informed. That stuffed rabbit of yours, it was in the hospital. I'll have a nurse fetch him for you. You ordered a nearby nurse to bring Bun Bun to Lincoln as he noticed something else. He couldn't feel him move his legs and feet. In fact, Lincoln couldn't even feel any sensation in it. I'm sorry to tell you this, Lincoln, but you're paralyzed from the waist down for life. Or at least until I can find a way to repair your spine, Lisa informed him with a sad tone of voice. What? Lincoln gasped. She's right, Lincoln, Dr. Lloyd informed. I did my best to try to repair the damage done to your spine, but it was way too severe to completely fix it. And I'm sorry to have to tell you this, but from now on, you will need a wheelchair to help you get around. Lincoln felt completely downtrodden and angry. Because of Luan, he had no longer been able to walk, and he'd be doomed to remain in the wheelchair or just to move about the rest of his life. And all because Luan wanted to have a good laugh. Thanks a lot, Luan, Lincoln snapped angrily, glaring at Luan. You put your only brother in the wheelchair for the rest of your life because you wanted to have a laugh. I hope you're happy. Lincoln, I'm really sorry, Luan pleaded. I know you might not want to forgive me, but please understand when I say I officially sworn off from pranking on April Fool's Day from here on out. Well, it's a little bit late for that, Luan, Lincoln snapped. If you just stopped your pranking, we would have all been telling you to do that year after year, and I wouldn't be in this predicament. Would I? Lincoln then wanted to protest, but she knew Lincoln was right, and everyone else in the room seemed to agree with him as well. Luan had been the cause of this, so she had always been the suspect that Lincoln would possibly be very unforgiving towards her at the moment of his mindset was returned to normal. I know, Luan said sadly. You have every right to be angry with me and hate me for what I did to you. I just wanted you to know that I'm really sorry for all that. Not just for putting you in this position, but also practically torturing the whole family each year. I really mean it too, when I said that I'll be swearing off from pranking for good. I know you'll hate me for the rest of your life, but I'm just glad to see your mindset is back to normal again. And I'm just happy that you'll be continuing living. And if it had not been for Lisa and the rest of us, you'd be dead by the end of the month. As she has a point there, Ronnie Ann said. She and the rest of your sisters, they all put your heart and soul into wanting to save your life. You should try and at least find it in your heart to forgive Luan for what she's done. Lincoln pondered for a while, wondering of how to address to this. While he hadn't been able to forgive Luan for nearly killing him and for damaging his spine, Lincoln could tell that she was really sorry for everything that she has done, and that the rest of her family. Lincoln knew that if it was Lisa who was able to invent the machine to heal brain damage, he was pretty sure that she might be able to find one day to fix his spine as well. I honestly don't know what to say, Luan, Lincoln finally said. I can finally tell you really mean what you say, but don't expect me to forgive you right away. What you did to me was very serious, and sure I have my mindset back to normal and all, but I won't be able to move around in a wheelchair from now on. I'm basically gonna have to be handicapped for the rest of my life. Because of you, just keep that in mind from now on. Trust me, Lincoln, Luan assured. I won't ever forget this as long as I live. Also, Lisa told us that she'll try to find a way to repair your spine someday, but she'll need some time to figure out how to do it. Lincoln glanced over at Lisa. Is that true? He asked, feeling a spark of ignite. Can you do that, Lisa? It may be possible, Lisa replied, but it'll take some time and effort, though. I could probably pull it off. I have faith in Lisa, Rita said. She was able to fix the damage done to your brain, so I'm sure she'll be able to fix your spine someday. Lincoln began to feel a spark of hope burning brighter than before. He imagined the thought of being able to walk again, and whatever matters, it's just even better. A nurse brought now a fully fixed Bun Bun into the room and handed over to Lincoln. He looked over at the stuffed rabbit and gently found it like if it was new again. No damage, no burns, just a normal stuffed rabbit. Lincoln could hardly believe his eyes. Luan had really fixed Bun Bun, and his eyes were teared up with happiness, and he gazed over at Bun Bun, now looking as new as the day he was given to Lincoln as a child. Now that Lincoln realized that Luan had really meant everything she said about being sorry to him, the whole family, and over everything that she had done for them. Although Lincoln could no longer move his legs, he couldn't help but feel incredibly grateful for Luan for fixing Bun Bun. Luan, thank you. Lincoln stammered, glanced over at Luan with tear-filled eyes. You don't know how much this means to me. No, I do, Luan replied. Bun Bun has been like a best friend to you ever since you were younger than Lily. I then realized I was wrong. I was nearly destroying him the way I did. I fixed him with Linny's help. Lincoln would have embraced Luan if he could, but since he wasn't able to move his legs, he wasn't able to. I had a problem teaching her how to do it, Linny boasted. But Luan seemed pretty enjoying it as well. As Lincoln embraced the stuffed rabbit, he felt all of his heart's sorrow and anger melt away, and his sisters all sacrificed so much of their own time to save his life. And on top of that, even Luan was willing to watch her atone of the mistakes, as well as not assisting her sisters in building the CNI unit, but also fixing Bun Bun. As much as Lincoln hated the idea of being bound to be in a wheelchair until Lisa could find a way to repair his spine, he was incredibly thankful for Luan and the rest of his sisters that have done for him. Without their help, Lincoln's mindset would still remain a toddler, and he would eventually die at the end of the month from the brain hemorrhage. Lincoln had always seen himself with the man in the plan, but he never would expect his sisters to the ones to become one of the best plans for him, except for Lisa, due to her intelligent mind. Guys, I can't thank you so much enough for this, Lincoln replied happily. I could finally see Lisa being one of the accomplished a task. But I would never thought I would be able. The rest of you guys would be the ones to help in my life. You're the best sisters a guy could ever ask for. Luan, while you may have messed up in the past, I could see now you meant everything you said, and for that I'm truly grateful. Lincoln's sisters all took turns embracing him, including his parents, the castrates, and Clyde, and as for Lisa, Lincoln embraced her the longest. She was probably one of the best thankful towards. Lisa had saved his life, and for something that she truly indebted for her for so long as she lived. Lisa was more than a sister to Lincoln. She was his savior and an angel. Lisa had done the impossible and succeeded on first try. Although the hope also may seem have lost for a moment, she had managed to pull through enough to save Lincoln's life. While living in the Ten Sisters may be sometimes a pain, Lincoln couldn't trade it for the world. After all, his sisters had helped him prevent his death, which was way more than Lincoln would have wished for. 5 months later, Lincoln sat near the TV with his sisters in the electric wheelchair, scratching and searching for the newest Saturday morning episode of Ace Savvy. It had been 5 months since Lincoln was released from the hospital, and it had been quite a number of things that have changed since then. Lisa's invention had been a huge revolutionary success in the world and wide medical history, and she ended up winning so many Academy Awards for it. She couldn't even count. The CNI unit was now being massed to produce all across the globe, and was being called a historical event history that almost every medical industry in the world, making Lisa famous. As for Lincoln, he is still being used as a wheelchair to move around. Lana had installed an Acorn brand of stair lift that into the stairs that will allow Lincoln to ride up and down the stairs without making trouble. Luan was currently finding new talents to replace her pranking, and Lisa had also been working on a new invention over the summer that will hopefully regenerate broken bones and damaged nerves, but it will still need more tests before it can be tested on a live human. While it taken some time to getting used to moving around in a wheelchair, about being handicapped, Lincoln had managed to get the hang of it. With Lana's help, she and Lynn Sr. installed a wheelchair ramp on the Vanzilla so that Lincoln would be able to get in and out of the van without any issues. Lana had also installed the rest of the handlebars in the bathroom so Lincoln could easily lift himself out of the wheelchair and onto the toilet whenever he needed it. I sure hope Lisa's new invention will get me out of this wheelchair. It'll be nice to finally walk around again, Lincoln said as the commercial break began. Yeah, it will, Lynn Jr. said. Let's just face it, bro. Not having you around was able to help me with sports practice was a bit boring. It'll be nice to see him walking around again someday, Lenny added. You got that right, Luna nodded. Let us not get so hasty, my dear siblings, Lisa said. Inventions like this take a lot of planning, so we can't rush things too quickly. Yeah, you're right, Lisa, Lincoln added. Take all the time you need. So with that, the talents that you've got to pursue, I've seen them sworn pranking off for good? Luan asked Lincoln. Good question, Lincoln said. I can't actually figure that one out. I'm sure you'll think of something, Luan, Lori said. You could still do ventriloquist acts with your dummy of yours. That would be, I know you're good at. Or perhaps poems of darknesses, Lucy suggested. No thanks, Luan said to his scoff. I like Lori's idea better. So do I, Lincoln agreed. You have changed a bit since my surgery, and that's a good start. Yeah, it is, Luan said in agreement. Guys, the show's back on, Lana pointed out. Lincoln's favorite show was back on, and he glanced around as his sisters felt an enormous amount of thankfulness fill every soul. He had true family who deeply loved and cared about him more than he ever could. He could even possibly understand. And even though his sisters could sometimes get on his nerves, Lincoln did not care. He wouldn't trade his life for whatever he had in the world. Ever since Lincoln had returned from the hospital, Luan had kept her promise not to prank anyone in the family ever again. And Rita and Lynn Sr. promised that they would do everything in their power to stop Luan if she went back on her own word. And of course, Lincoln had a feeling that Luan wouldn't do that. However, the rest of her family have learned a lesson from Lincoln's incident, including Luan, so Lincoln was pretty sure that everyone was safe. Luan would sometimes crack jokes every now and then, but she would immediately stop if one of her parents or her siblings told her to stop. Lincoln served as a clear reminder to Luan never to cross the line again. Lincoln's accident had been a huge impact not just on Luan, but the entire Loud family as well. It had been taught them an all possibly a great lesson that they could ever learn. It was unpredictably Lincoln's accident proved that it was one invincible, regardless of the circumstances, and this had changed Luan for the rest of her family to be far more cautious than ever. While it would take Luan some time to get used to the not pranking anymore, Lincoln was pretty sure that she would stay true to her word and not leave the possible repeat of what just happened to him. In the results of her pranking, while Lincoln had to admit that her sisters could sometimes get on his nerves, he wouldn't trade it for the world. They mean him more than everything could ever imaginable. Their true love for Lincoln had never motivated them to do something that they didn't seem to think they would ever do. But with Lisa's help, they had proved themselves wrong. They all created a machine that not only saved Lincoln's life, but it could do a mouse of productions around the world to save other people's lives. Lincoln didn't care if he was bound to be in a wheelchair at this point, or if it took Lisa forever to complete a new invention to fix his spine. As long as he had family who cared about him so much that they would not risk everything to save his life. Lincoln couldn't wish for anything more. He loved his sisters and they loved him, and more that Lincoln could ever wish for. He had everything he wanted. He couldn't have asked for anything better. Lincoln's sisters were the only ones who kept him going, and that they'd always be there to catch him when he fell, no matter where he was. Lincoln was a Loud, and the Louds never gave up. And that, my little pretties, was Luan Goes Too Far. A Loud House, I guess it's a fan fiction, but if you want to call it feels pasta, because it feels like a feels pasta at most of this, to be honest. Written by Space Voyager 1701. Space Voyager 1701, thank you for letting me read this story. Thank you so much for willing to write this story. This was highly appreciated. I really do like it. Thank you so much yet again. So, my final thoughts on the story. It's a really good story, to be completely and utterly honest with you guys. I love how this story went out. It was flat out amazing. You know, with the whole concept of, Luan pranking and then leads up to an accident. And, I have no doubt that this would happen to Luan in the future. Like, who knows? It could happen to Lincoln. It could happen to anyone in the Loud family, to be completely honest. Like, this kind of makes me feel, really sad at certain parts, especially when Lincoln gets hurt and stuff like that. So I could definitely say that right now, that this story actually played out well with the whole concept of, Luan going too far with one of her pranks and that. And, this is not completely out of the ordinary for Luan to sit there and do that. Like, this is no doubt, I would have no doubt that Luan would actually sit there and do that. There is, like, absolutely no doubt that Luan would sit there and, do all this. Like, I can honestly picture Luan sitting there and doing all that. That, I'm definitely going to say. I could definitely picture Luan, sitting there and doing this. Now, I could definitely say that this story was actually really well made and detailed. Like, it actually felt that as if it's a real episode of, well, you could probably already guess it. So it feels like a real episode of, or movie of The Loud House. Now, I definitely have to say that this is actually a really well-made story, and it's very, very well-made in detail. And this story was really sweet and awesome. Like, I'm glad that Lincoln did not die. Like, I was really tensed in the last chapter when I was seeing, this. Like, I was really intense with this. Like, I definitely have to say, the grammar of this story was absolutely beautiful and well made. The sentence structuring worked out well. The storyline of how it all went out was perfect. Everything about it was flat out amazing. It actually worked out very well with the whole concept of the Loud House. Now, I could definitely say that I could actually see this being the case when it comes to, Luan with their pranking. And, this is actually going to be one of the worst outcomes that could happen to, Lincoln or anyone when Luan does their pranks and they go too far this time. This is actually very believable. Like, Luan could sit there and, potentially do that, almost killing somebody. Like, oh my goodness. This story was definitely something. I'm definitely being completely honest. But the subject matter, with, Lincoln getting really badly injured to the point where he had to be in the hospital and that, the subject matter was handled very well because this is actually pretty believable, and I would have no doubt Luan will sit there and, do one of her pranks, and this could be actually an outcome of what if one of her pranks gone wrong. So, with that being the case, that's actually very believable to extent. That's actually very believable, and I really do like how the concept just flat out went out really well. Like, I do appreciate the storyline of how it all went out, and that's what made the flow really well done with the whole concept. And I could definitely see Luan, facing this kind of issue if she were to pull a prank that could actually, kill one of her family members or actually hurt one of them. It's really, come to think of it, it actually sounds messed up when you come to think of it. So I could definitely say that the story was actually really well made and very well detailed. The grammar was good. Everything about it was just flat out amazing. And I have no doubt that, this would be the outcome of one of Luan's pranks if it goes horribly wrong. So yeah, if you guys have seen, Jackass, you probably have seen, some people, doing something really stupid that they shouldn't do, and then the outcome becomes worse. I think one of the guys who actually did, like, something really stupid in Jackass, and he probably died. I can't remember what it was, what they were doing, but yeah, that, I could definitely say that you shouldn't, try any of the pranks Luan did at home, because yeah, you never know what could really happen. Okay. Now, I'm going to sit here and wrap up the review because this is a long story. And, if I were to break the whole story down of, what was good and what was not good, the video would probably be 2 hours long. So I'm not going to sit there and, do that. I'm just going to explain it all right here. So, with that being the case, it's a really well-made story. I definitely have to say there's a lot of time and effort into it. I really do like how this went out. The concept was amazing. I do like the story. So, with that being the case, I'm gonna say right now, and I'll always continue to say that this is simply my own personal opinion, and if you happen to disagree with me, that's fine too. We're all entitled to our own opinions regards to these, feels pastas, creepypastas, fanfictions, whatever you guys prefer to call this one. I'm calling this a feels pasta. I know it's a fanfiction, but I'm calling it a feels pasta. So, with that being the case, my final rating of the story is a 10 out of 10. Great story, great concept. I love how everything went out. It just was amazing with how this story went out. It feels like if, this is actually very believable, really well made, and I love how the reaction of all the characters and everything about it was just amazing. Really well done and made, Space Voyager. And I have to say, Space Voyager, you did awesome with this story. You did great. I really hope if you guys want to narrate this story, it's on fanfiction.net if you guys want to sit there and, take a look at the story. The story is really well made in detail, so that is something I'm definitely going to say. So anyways, what did you guys think about this feels pasta, fanfiction, or creepypasta, whatever you guys prefer to call it? Did you guys enjoy it? Did you guys not? Also, what we have done personally to help make this story a lot better? Leave me know what your thoughts are down in the comment section down below. I'm the Queen of Lions. Thank you so much for watching today's episode, and if you happen to be brand new here on this channel, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe because I make brand new videos every single day. Don't forget to ring the notification bell to when I upload so then you guys will not miss an upload. And as always, please roll the outro because I'm out of here, and I'll be catching you all in the next video. So I'll see you all next time.